What's up, guys? Hey, this is Christian Brindle with Six Figure Medicare Agent. Hope this video finds you doing well. And today we're going to be talking about the multi-level marketing, aka network marketing industry, and how it has influenced and what it has to do with the insurance industry. So buckle up. This is going to be a good video. So in the multi-level marketing / network marketing, whatever they might want to call it, industry, it is solely, in most cases, based on recruiting. They typically will sell a pipe dream, and there's a lot of insurance companies that have kind of adopted this model. A lot of times you'll see life insurance companies adopt this model in order to kind of build up an organization, if you will, that a lot of times they don't always focus as much on selling insurance themselves as they're more concentrated on recruiting other people into their team and kind of growing their organization. So anytime you're dealing with a network marketing type organization, you have one person at the top, right? And then you have that person that will bring on other people, and then those other two people will bring on other people, and then those other people will bring on their own people, and so on and so on. That's kind of the business model behind these multi-level marketing companies. Now, some examples of some of these companies that you're going to see out there, you're going to see companies like Amway. You're going to see companies like, it's another big one, Mary Kay, for makeup or whatever the case might be. And I actually have quite the interesting history when it comes to multi-level marketing companies. So me personally, guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, but before I was ever in the insurance business, I was in a multi-level marketing company. In fact, I've been in three in my life. I was in a company called Vima when I was about 19 years old, right before I got into the insurance industry. And I do think that there are some positive aspects that the multi-level marketing industry has brought to the insurance industry, and I also think that there's some negative aspects to it as well, and I'm going to touch on both later on in this video. But when I was in Vima, particularly, there are some things that I kind of felt like that I learned that might have helped me out, that might have better equipped me and prepared me for the insurance business. I was very briefly in one called Wake Up Now that actually got shut down for being an illegal pyramid scheme. They actually weren't selling anything in particular. They were selling like a bunch of coupons. It was weird. And then while I was in the insurance business, probably my second or third year in, I got into a third one called Zango that I was doing on the side that was actually local here in Utah. I was probably 23, 24 years old at the time. And, it took me a while to kind of figure out the model, kind of that it's not something that I wanted to deal with. It's not something that I wanted in my life, but I do feel like I made some very valuable relationships, friendships by being a part of it, which I'll touch on, like I said, later on in the video. And essentially, I think it prepared me quite a bit for being able to come into the insurance business. Now, there are typically, like I mentioned, life insurance companies that have this model here. They're going to have the model that you need to recruit. And the insurance business as a whole has a lot of multi-level marketing aspects to it. A few months ago, I interviewed David Duford on this particular channel, and he said that word for word almost. The multi-level marketing influence in the insurance industry is very, very apparent. And that's because when you come into the business, a lot of times you're going to end up in somebody's hierarchy. Now, typically what that means is you're going to be under an upline. Now, this isn't a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're getting screwed over. I mean, it can mean that in some cases, and we've done other videos in the past about uplines and kind of what you need to look for. But it's not a bad thing to have an upline, especially if you have a good one. It's a good thing to have a mentor, somebody that's been there before, somebody that's been successful, someone that's made six figures in this business. I personally did not put any focus and concentration into recruiting people until I was making six figures in the business, because I wanted to make sure that I had something to show for it. I could be like, hey, look what I've done, all on my own pen, and I can teach you how to get there too. Now, there's a lot of people that come right into the business and their focus is just to recruit before they've even never sold a policy. Now, those ones particularly, I'm a little more hesitant about those. Not to say that those are always bad people. I have a lot of friendships and relationships with people that kind of have those roles as well in the industry, and they do a great job. So this is not a blanket statement. But in terms of companies that actually follow this model in terms of multi-level marketing, typically you're going to be in a situation where you have a couple different obstacles that you need to overcome. The first obstacle that you have to overcome working with a multi-level marketing company is typically your commissions are very low, especially when you're in the insurance business. Low pay is what we'll call it, low commissions. So a lot of times, for example, like if you're selling, a lot of these multi-level marketing companies will be selling term life insurance, mortgage protection, final expense insurance. A lot of times you're getting a fraction of what your commissions would really be with another organization, maybe even street level commissions. I've seen people that, could get 100%, 110%, maybe even 120% street level commission on final expense business, to give you an example. And I'm not a huge final expense guy, but I'll just use this as an example. And they'll go off with a multi-level marketing company and they'll get 30%, 40%, 50%. It's just pitiful. Minimum. You could see people that are selling mortgage protection that could be getting 70%, 80%, 60% even, and they're getting 20, 30%, 25%, 40% even. They're taking it down quite a bit from what they could get even street level. And there's quite the focus and concentration placed on recruitment. That's why you see so many multi-level marketing companies over the years get in a little bit of hot water in terms of recruitment. A lot of times, if a company has no valued product or service and their focus is mainly pushed on the recruiting side of things, and they're not seem to have any vested interest in selling a product or service, sometimes what you'll see is the FCC will come in or the government will come in and kind of shut these companies down, because that's how they distinguish between an illegal pyramid scheme and an actual multi-level marketing insurance company, although they are very, very similar. And me, myself, when I was in these multi-level marketing companies, I would preach to people that it's not a pyramid scheme. 2 of the 3 that I was in were actually deemed illegal pyramid schemes and taken action against by the FCC. Actually, no, it wasn't the FCC, it was FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. And so that's kind of what you're dealing with in terms of multi-level marketing, guys. I'll tell you a little bit about my story, my history, and how I got into the multi-level marketing industry, what it did for me, what I learned, what it did to help me, and so on and so forth.
So guys, here's my little personal story about multi-level marketing and network marketing. So like I told you earlier on in this video, when I was about 19 or so, I was thinking about going into the insurance business. I had actually even started studying for my test and coming to work with my dad. And, as many of you know, my dad's been in the business for 25 to 30 years, one of the best agents in Utah, pioneered a lot of local Medicare here for many, many years, for decades. And, I was looking into it. At the time, I was working full-time at an assisted living facility, and I was doing a lot of different things at this assisted living facility. My main objective is I was in the kitchen. I was a server, but I also was, a dishwasher at times. I'd help cook sometimes. I did night security sometimes in a different department. I helped with activities sometimes, doing like blackjack for the seniors. And then there were times where I did concierge services on the weekends. I wore a lot of hats at this place, and and I worked there for a number of years. Had a lot of great relationships. And a good friend of mine that worked there, his name was Pichai, and he was involved in this multi-level marketing thing, and I didn't even know what multi-level marketing was at that time. I had no idea. I was just totally blank slate to it. And he was in this multi-level marketing company called Vima. And Vima, at the time, was selling healthy energy drinks. Later on, they were shut down by the government, and they were deemed a legal pyramid scheme. Now, they fought it. They were able to reopen, but the reputation damage, it took over a year. Reputation damage was kind of a little bit tough for them to overcome. I don't even know what they're doing today. But essentially, that was way after I got out of it, by the way. I was in that for about a year or so. And I met a really, really good friend of mine through doing that. And that friend of mine me and him actually were the two people that were putting in the most work to kind of build our team, if you will, and we were making no money, right? I mean, we were building a team. We probably had at one point, I don't remember exactly, but probably a team of maybe about 10 to 15 people. And I actually got an apartment with some other people on my team that weren't doing anything. And, but this friend of mine, his name was Ken Howe, and he's actually works with me today here in our offices, and he started with me. He's someone that's been a very, very good friend of mine, and we've gone through a lot together in the insurance business, and I would not have met him if it was not for multi-level marketing. So that's number one. That's probably the most valuable relationship that I got out of being in network marketing and multi-level marketing. But I think the main thing that helped me out as far as insurance is concerned is what we were doing is, in this apartment of mine, we were basically hosting home events. You ever been to one of those home events where a friend will invite you to one and they'll be like, I got something I want to show you. And then, they're like, we have an opportunity for you. And then they lock the doors and everything, it's very cliche. But we were hosting those a lot of times every week, sometimes more than once per week. And we were bringing people through the door. We probably brought over 100 people through that apartment door in the span of about 6 to 9 months, and we brought a lot of people in. If I had to guess, we probably brought 100 people through that door. Myself and Ken Howe, and we were basically trying to make it happen. And of course, we weren't making any money at the time, but I think And the only way for someone to join that company was they had to put down $495 minimum for a starter package. And of course, at that age, we obviously know a lot of people that are also around our age. It's not too many, not too many kids around that age, 19, 20 years old, that are walking around and with $500 to blow in their pocket, right? And so essentially, I think for me personally, I think it gave me a sense of, sales and recruiting and marketing and just trying to pique people's interest. I learned a lot about that stuff early on, and I think it helped me. I think it also introduced me to personal development. I remember the first book anyone ever handed me when I was in that business there was two. I don't remember which one I was given first, but the first one was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, one of my favorite books of all time. Very much love that book. It's a classic. And the second one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which very well may be my favorite book that I have ever read to this day, and I've read a lot of books. It introduced me to the concept of growth, personal development. You can be whatever you want to be. There's a lot of things about the MLM industry that's a bunch of horse shit, right? Let's just be honest about that. But what it does do is I think it gathers people around that are hungry, positive, like-minded. They're all trying to get somewhere. They're trying to be better than they were before. And I think for that, it's not a bad thing. I wrote a book years ago when I was like 22 years old. And, it's a book called The Ultimate Guide to Taking Control of Your Life. It's a little cliche, I know, but it's a book about basically why I believe that going to college is overrated for a lot of people, unless you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or whatever the case might be. And I still believe that to this day. And I said in that book, I think if someone spent a year or 2 years in a network marketing business, I think they'd learn more about business and sales and recruiting than they probably would at most colleges. And I still believe that. That being said, I'm not a big proponent of people in the insurance industry getting into insurance MLMs. And I'll tell you why. The insurance business has a 92% turnover rate in the first 3 years. That's with street-level normal commissions. But if you're taking those commissions and taking half of what they normally would be in an MLM situation, there's just no point. It's ridiculous. I think it's a good thing because it brings new people into the business. There's so many, big-time people in our industry that said that they got their start in an MLM. But it's got its good and its bad, and I think it's very important that we identify it for what it truly is. So anyway, guys, that's my little story about MLM, kind of what it's meant to me. I would never get into another one again, right? I mentioned earlier in the video how I got into another one called Zango, and it just took time away from my business. Bottom line, I was in it for probably 3 to 4 months before I realized that, and I got out of it. And it was a lesson that I needed to learn, that the bottom line is the bottom line, and that is your business. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear some stories about of multi-level marketing companies that you've encountered, or maybe some that you've been in. Drop them in the comment section. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for future six-figure Medicare agent content. Take care.